Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special episode of the Vape Village, where we are very lucky to have with us today Dr. Lucinda McKnight from Deakin University. As part of this series, we are unpacking some of the wonderful workshops that are available to you online as part of the 2020 Vape State Conference coming up on Saturday, October the 3rd, the online workshops anyway. And Lucinda's here with us today to talk about her workshop, and I love the provocative title of this workshop, Writing Our Way Out of Victoria's Paragraph Crisis. I really love the possibilities in this session to really get into some deep discussion about exactly what is going on with these paragraph wars you're alluding to. What are we talking about here?
Okay, thanks, Ernest. I really hope that teachers will be able to relate to this idea of the paragraph wars or a paragraph crisis, because it's something that I know that they are talking about themselves. And so in answer to the question of what are the paragraph wars, firstly, I just wanted to read out something that a teacher told me when I was doing a little research project for VATE a year or so ago now. At a year 7 level, we say it's topic, sentence, evidence, explanation, link. That's where it starts. In year 12, I feel like that stymies kids. I feel like a lot of kids don't graduate from that structure, and that structure is a really basic structure. You find really clunky use of evidence like, I've made a point, now I've got my evidence, so therefore you can see that my point is correct. But I'm not, I don't know, having some reservations about the old teal. So the idea of the paragraph wars comes partly, at least, from teachers who have been saying to me that they are struggling themselves with this being the highest expectation that we have of our students in Victoria, that they can write paragraphs in this very formulaic sort of way. So there's a kind of internal struggle between, I know teal can be really helpful for some students with, I know it really sort of crushes others. So where do we go with that? Then also, I know from pre-service teachers who come back from their placements that there are wars in schools about teal and what the different letters even stand for in it. Does L mean link back to the topic? Does it mean link onto the next paragraph? So there's that. And then there are also things happening, like, for example, we hear about teal being forced on everyone in a school, that everyone in the school has to write using teal, including all the administrative staff, that no paragraph must be written without it, or that all creative writing too has to be created with teal.
Wow, I haven't heard that one. That's
creative writing to be done that way, even right up to VCE. Sorry, Ernest, I know I'm talking a lot, but just one more thing to say. There's this big question too over the social justice aspect of teal, because I know that teal is banned at many private schools, which have higher expectations for their students. And therefore, it's a social justice issue. Some students are being taught to compose paragraphs, to make writerly choices, and to develop themselves as writers. Other students are just being told teal is what to do, and this is how you should write. So there's a huge difference between composition and compliance and what education's actually for.
Absolutely. And I think, the broad ramifications, I think, teachers who might approach teal, as you said, as a scaffold, as a tool for students at a certain stage of their development as writers, perhaps don't foresee these sort of complications and ongoing ramifications that you're talking about, which is why I love the way you framed this session within that statewide context, because I think, you can be in your classroom with students making certain decisions in the moment about your instruction that don't necessarily have an understanding of that broader context, which I think is really important and something that a session like yours can provide.
Yeah, that's right. The state thing's really interesting, because at the point when VATE asked me if I would do a masterclass for this conference, I had just received an email from someone who was telling me about a Victorian teacher who'd written a chapter for a national textbook on paragraphing, and it had to be rejected because all that teacher knew how to do was teal. And that is just, simply not what writing paragraphs is all about anyway, even if it can be useful in certain situations. And I thought that was really interesting, and it reminded me too of how when I started teaching a long time ago, 1990, I think it was my first year, we had a year 7 textbook that really explicitly said that topic sentences could go anywhere in paragraphs. So and that was a very widely used national English, mainstream English textbook. So we've gone from 1990, where that was the case, to 2020, where we have teal almost as a sort of a straitjacket on so many people, teachers, and so many kids in schools. We know that teachers think potentially that they're meant to teach that way. And now with pre-service teachers, we're seeing people who are coming through, that's all they've been taught themselves in schools. That's the only way they know how to write. So how do they, teach students with broader kinds of pedagogies? And that's what the masterclass will really look at.
Fantastic. I love the possibilities of that. So what can people expect from this session? I guess you've sort of answered that question a little already in terms of the framing of the question, as well as perhaps some alternative possibilities for the way forward in terms of
well, if they're deeply wedded to teal, they can expect to be shocked. So I'll show you something shocking right now. I'm going to share my screen.
Fantastic.
Here we go. This is a paragraph that does not use teal. Now, this comes from a published essay by Anna Goldsworthy called Unfinished Business, Sex, Freedom and Misogyny. And I'd just like to read it out to everyone. On the surface, this might sound like a sound point. It is still accepted that the cruelest insult a woman can receive is one that impugns her appearance. Hence the silencing power of fat and ugly. Tanya Plibersek remembers being rebuked while campaigning for having a fat face. I had no emotional response to it at all. I just didn't care whether he thought I was fat or not, but I thought it was a really unusual criticism. I mean, if he talked to me about letting down my electorate, if he talked to me about a policy issue I cared about, it would have had much greater impact on me than an insult about how I looked. Okay, so firstly, I just want to briefly say, look at the first sentence. On the surface, this might sound like a sound point. It starts with the L. It starts with the link moving from the previous paragraph. So immediately in this published paragraph, and we know that the vast majority of published paragraphs do not use teal, the writer has made the decision, I want a link here from my previous paragraph. So are we on LEAT? Are we going to work backwards and have the topic sentence at the end? No, because look, the writer wants to end with what Tanya Plibersek says, because it's more powerful than anything the writer could add. Do we want a topic sentence added on to the end of this? This shows that Tanya Plibersek cares more about policy than she does about her looks. That would weaken the paragraph. So there you go. So in the workshop, we'll actually look at some paragraphs, deeply shock people who believe every paragraph's written with teal, and then we will actually be doing some writing. And I just want to say too, that when I was first thinking about teal and paragraphs, I just thought, right, I'm going to turn around to my bookshelf. I'm going to grab a book of essays, actual published essays, and I'm going to see if this uses teal. And it definitely does not. I don't think I could find a teal example when I looked through it. But pre-service teachers and people at uni in other subjects that I teach come to me and say things that make me feel so depressed, like, what should my topic sentence be for my first body paragraph? Or what should my 3 ideas be for my 3 body paragraphs in a 2,500 word essay? And you can just see, I hope you can teachers listening out there can understand how what's taught in school does not service students well for university. So our first task in English method is for students to write a welcome to my writing classroom piece, or not write or create. So they might be doing a YouTube video, they might be doing a tour of a classroom, they might be building a physical virtual classroom, actual classroom, or designing a virtual one. They might be doing a play dialogue between 2 teachers about writing. Being taught to write teal paragraphs for formulaic text response and analysis essays does not support them in the real world. So I really powerfully argue that, and I can give loads of examples of it. So we'll be talking about that too in the workshop. So yeah, I hope that will whet people's appetites. Do you think it will, Ernest?
Absolutely, I love it. And as I said right at the top of this discussion, I think that provocative title really feeds some deep thinking that needs to happen about how we actually teach writing in secondary schools. And I think this session at the state conference would be a great starting point for some of those really robust discussions. And I know our members are hungry for them. I think we've had a lot of members participating in our Beyond Teal series of professional learning online during the remote learning period. And I think that says to me that people are really ready for this discussion. So please come along to the state conference. If you want to register for Lucinda's workshop, jump on the VATE website and follow the registration process from there. We hope to see you at the state conference.